Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Tuesday, October 1st, 2002. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Meetings are open to the public. We do invite you to join us. For people unable to attend council meetings, we can also be viewed live from home on your cable station, Channel 35. We can be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Burnson, Galanter, Garcetti, Gruel, Han, Holden, Labange, Mizikowski, Pacheco, Perry, Reyes, Ridley, Thomas, Weiss, Stein, Padilla. 10 members present. A quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Council is officially in session. This being Tuesday and the first meeting of the week, we do have a salute to the flag scheduled, and I'd ask our colleague from Sacramento, the Honorable Carol Liu, member of the Assembly, to lead us in our flag salute.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much. Would you please rise and join me in the saluting our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Thank you for visiting us here in City Hall as well. Mr. Pacheco, Mr. Reyes, we have to be responsive to her. We were taking notes at a meeting earlier today. Members of the public, members of the council, I recognize Councilmember Garcetti for a special introduction.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We are blessed to have some students from CD 14, actually, Occidental College, Regina Freer's Los Angeles politics class. I want to ask an LA native and student who was just asked to give us a moment of inspiration. Evelyn Montes, if you'll come forward to the microphone, please give her a hand.
Good morning. Well, basically, all I have to say is that the best policy that I've seen has come from bridging the gap between policy advocates, true community-based organizing by community organizations, and strong progressive leadership of council members. In my opinion, Garcetti and Mr. Reyes, because of the two neighboring districts that I live in. And my hope is that this continues to happen, and that all these, that we bridge the gap and really put forth policy that's going to benefit all of LA, not just a part of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Members, we do have one presentation scheduled for today. The chair recognizes Councilmember Burnson.
Members of the council, it's my pleasure today to be able to present this resolution certificate of recognition to Vivian Gillette. She is a 20-year member of the Los Angeles Police Department, currently assigned to the Narcotics Division, Valley Bureau Unit, Field Enforcement Section, which provides services to the San Fernando Valley. Her pleasant personality, outstanding clerical skills have had a positive effect on the morale of our unit's personnel. Come on up a little closer. Just come on up here, okay? Vivian performs all the support functions for a 35-person unit, a position normally performed by 2 people. She has assumed a vast array of responsibilities that normally would be assigned to a senior detective, and she has been honored with countless letters of appreciation and commendations. In 1998, she was awarded the Hollywood Area Civilian Employee Award. Vivian exemplifies the LAPD spirit of integrity and commitment to public service. Now, therefore, I join with the Los Angeles Police Department in congratulating and thanking Vivian Gillette for her dedication and hard work in making Los Angeles a better place to live. So, Vivian, it's my pleasure to present this to you.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a couple words about her, Captain? Okay, would you like to say a word?
Just thank you very, very much.
Okay, fine. Come on, follow me, we'll take a picture.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations. Thank you very much, Mr. Burnson. Madam. Madam Clerk, first item of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Hahn moves and Mr. Weiss seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Zine moves and Mr. Garcetti seconds.
Before beginning the regular agenda, there are several items to continue. Item number 7, a request from Councilmember Misikowski to continue that matter for 1 day to October 2nd.
Members request to continue item number 7 for 1 day without objection. So ordered.
A request from Councilmember Zine to continue item number 22 for 2 weeks to October 15th.
Request to continue item number 22 without objection also.
And also request from Councilmember Perry to receive and file item number 50B. It's one of the special event motions.
Item 50B, request to receive and file, members, without objection. Mr. Weiss.
Mr. President, I request to continue item 40 for 2 weeks, please.
Members request to continue item number 40 for 2 weeks. Seeing no objection, item 40 is continued as well.
On the regular agenda, items notice for public hearing, items 1 through 5 are hearing protests against street lighting districts, and there are also ordinances. Do you wish to hold those on the desk for 12 members?
We do anticipate 12 members. Let's hold those matters on the desk. In the meantime, let me acknowledge that I have not received speaker cards on items 1 through 5, so we shall deem the public hearings open and closed. We're going to hold them on the desk. Items 1 through 5 being held on the desk. Madam Clerk.
Item number 6 is also a public hearing item. It's Larchmont Business Improvement District, and the ballot tabulation will be held tomorrow, and council should close the public hearing today.
Okay, on item number 6, again, no requests from members of the public to address the council have been submitted we shall open and close the public hearing, and Madam Clerk, if I understand correctly, continue this matter for one day.
The matter is already on tomorrow's agenda, so it doesn't need to be continued. It just open and close the public hearing.
Okay, public hearings have been opened and closed. Mr. Zine, you wish to call an item special? Item number 1, call special by Mr. Zine. We will proceed with a vote. We have 12 members present now, Madam Clerk, with items 2 through 5. Members wishing to call any specials, items 2 through 5? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, please close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those matters are approved.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 8 is also a public hearing item. It's a Planning Land Use Management Committee report and an ordinance.
Okay, and I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on item number 8. Public hearing shall be open and closed. Madam City Attorney?
Mr. Chair, we would ask that this be continued. We just received the council file today on this item, and so therefore the council doesn't have the ordinance in front of it.
Okay, amount of time?
2 weeks.
Okay, members request by the City Attorney's Office to continue this matter for 2 weeks. New hearing date would be October 15th. We have opened and closed the public hearings. Without objection, item number 8 is continued. Next items, please.
Next items, Mr. President, items for which public hearings have been held, items 9 through 34.
Items 9 through 34 now before us. Members, any specials? Mr. Garcetti.
For Mr. Holden, 11, my apologies, colleagues, 21 and 30, and 26 for myself, please.
26 called special by Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Holden called 11, 21, and 30 special. Any other specials? Any other specials? Half of it he did. Madam Clerk, on the balance of the items, please open the roll, please close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those matters are approved. Next items, please.
Next items, Mr. President, items for which public hearings have not been held, items 35 through 58.
35 through 58 now before us. Members, without objection, we shall consider these matters. Do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items, so we shall deem the public hearing satisfied. Are there members wishing to call any specials? Mr. Garcetti?
For Mr. Holden, again, number 57, please.
57 call special by Mr. Holden. Ms. Gruhl? Same one. Ms. Misikowski? 51 call special by Ms. Misikowski. Any other specials? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the balance of the items. We're not there yet, Mr. Brinson. Madam Clerk, the roll is open. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those matters are approved. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 59 is the closed session. Do you wish to hold that on the desk?
Let's hold the closed session item on the desk.
On the continuation, on the supplemental agenda, items 60 and 61 are items for which public hearings have not been held.
And without objection, members, we shall consider these matters today. I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Again, we shall deem the public hearing satisfied. Mr. Brinson, you wish to call an item special? 61 call special by Mr. Brinson. Anybody wishing to call item 60 special? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on item 60. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved.
Going back to the items called special, item number 1 was called special by Councilmember Zine.
Mr. Zine, item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. On item number 1, I need to have a minor modification on that item subsection 3 regarding the lighting district, and I want to change subsection 3 to read that the Bureau of Street Lighting be instructed to initiate a new assessment ballot proceeding for the maintenance of the proposed pedestrian lights, and the rest of that can remain as is.
Okay, so there's a requested amendment. Ms. Perry, Chair of the Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wanted to call special item 50A and 54.
Okay, ma'am, Ms. Perry, we've already gone through the items and called items special, so at the appropriate time, we'll take that as a motion for reconsideration.
Okay, thank you.
Any objection to Mr. Zine's amending motion for item number 1? Without objection, then, we shall consider item number 1 as amended. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, please close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Item number 1 as amended is approved. Thank you, Mr. Zine. Ms. Perry, item 50B had been continued, I believe, at your request. You wanted to call item 50A special.
Yes, I wanted to make a correction. I believe that this street closure is in the 14th district, and just wanted to extend that.
Have the record reflect that?
Yes.
Okay.
And 54, okay, I'll wait till you call me for
Okay.
54.
I don't think we need to reconsider item 50A to make that correction. That's clerical. And Ms. Perry, the other item is 51 or 54?
I'm sorry. What, I'm sorry?
51 or 54? The other matter.
54.
54? Madam Clerk, please open the roll on reconsideration of item number 54. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Item 54 is now before us. Ms. Perry, your disposition on this matter? Call special?
Yes, called special, yes.
Okay. Item 54, call special by Ms. Perry. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 11, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden,
It does apply to all.
may I ask you to press your button, please?
Mr. President, members, this is regarding the safety of elevators and standardizing the safety codes, provisions for all elevators. Does someone give us a little explanation on this and how it does apply to the city-owned, operated elevators as well?
The question is, how much is it going to cost us to upgrade our elevators?
Oh, was there a question? Yeah.
So one, it's going to apply, but what are we prepared to pay the cost? Right? We have
Right. Right. This new state law says we have to upgrade all elevators to standardize the safety procedure for elevators in the state of California. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Grace Harper, Building and Safety.
All right, very good. So we are going to be responsible for inspecting these elevators?
Yes, sir. Building
will.
and Safety inspects those. General Services is responsible for...
Are we doing it at this time, inspecting elevators?
Yes, we are.
And the owner of the building paid the city for the inspection, or yes?
Please
We
say
send
it.
an inspector out there, right?
Yes.
Who's paying for that?
The owner.
The owner pays for the inspection.
Yes.
All right, fine.
In
Now,
public
what
buildings.
about the elevators that's in city-owned buildings or buildings that are leased by the city? What about those elevators? Do we pay? I'm sorry, go ahead.
As far as I know, Councilman, they are required to comply as well. I'd have to talk with General Services to see what their schedule is.
Right, do you know whether or not the elevators which we have, like here in City Hall, do they meet the minimum standard specified or required by the state?
I would say yes, sir, they do. During the refurbishment and upgrading of City Hall, they were refurbished to accommodate those.
To your knowledge, do we have any such elevators that we have in our buildings that do not or meet the standard, and are we in the process of upgrading them?
At this point, as far as I know, Councilman, all the elevators are up to standard and minimum code. Any new provisions that would fall under this would probably have to conform for these elevators.
Do you see any requirement upon the city to upgrade based on these new provisions?
At this point, I don't know, sir.
Would you get back to us and let us know that?
Yes, sir, I will.
Because I think the city needs to know, and if so, how much is it going to cost? You need to do both. Mr. President, members, I don't know what's appropriate here, but to say, offer a motion to say that we should find out whether or not the city would be required to upgrade the elevators, number one, and number two, what it would cost in the event we have to do that. And I so move. Can I get a second? Yeah, if they're even working. Let's move to second, Mr. President. And then
Thank you. There's a
we
motion,
moved it-
there's a second. That's
and
an
we move
amending
it-
motion.
We moved it as amended.
Is there any objection to the amending motion? Seeing none, we shall consider item number 11 as amended. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 21 was called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden, item 21. Your
Mr.
button,
President,
please.
it's okay as is, except I have a little minor technical amendment. It's not been circulated yet. We can move to the next item as I circulate it and then come back to this one if you choose to do so. I got to sign it.
Okay. Then let's hold it on the desk, awaiting that amending motion. Madam Clerk, next item.
Next item is item number 13, called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Item 26, called special by Mr. Garcetti.
26? Yes, do we have staff here available from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment? Can we have staff come to the table, please? This, colleagues, concerns youth participation in our neighborhood councils. I think from the beginning when we looked at stakeholders and the idea of stakeholders, one of the most important aspects or communities was to make sure that we have young people involved in the neighborhood councils for them to be successful. A lot of the decisions that are made clearly affect young people, and I wanted to hear a report back. I guess we don't have staff here. Why don't we hold it and ask for Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, or if the CAO wants to give us the statistics. I think that's the most important point of how many neighborhood councils that have come on board actually have youth involved in them. And that's a point that I'd like to underscore. So why don't we hold that on the table, Mr. President? We'll see if we can get some staff here from the department.
Okay,
to
we'll hold that
testify.
on the desk.
Thank you.
And if we don't have the department here by about 11:15, then we should consider continuing the matter for one day. Madam Clerk, next item.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 30, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden, item 30. Your button, please.
Members, I pushed my button again, but here we got to get some explanation why the police department will be involved in the use of force in those incidents which affect the Department of General Services, where they have to use what is known as excessive force in securing the safety of the building. So maybe somebody can come forward and give us some explanation on that, Mr. President.
As the staff comes forward.
My name is Tony DeClue, Assistant General Manager, General Services Department. And joining me is Gary Newton, the newly appointed Director of Security Services. The item before you is a use of force policy that was proposed to be approved by City Council. The last use of force policy was adopted by City Council in 1995. This policy updates our previous policy to conform to the newest legal guidelines and parameters. We asked the Los Angeles Police Department, as when they were assisting us and helping us manage the division, to take a look at the use of force policy to make sure it was updated. They ran it through their risk management assessment, City Attorney's Office, and all their staff people, and helped us to put these revisions together. It was sent through ITGS committee, and the item here is to request approval. Late last night, I got a call from the unions, and they indicated that there was one small phrase that they had a question with, and asked that final action be deferred for 2 weeks so that we could discuss that one issue with them. If it would please the council, I'd suggest that action on this item be deferred until 2 weeks so that we can work with our partners, the employee bargaining units, make sure that their concerns are dealt with.
Good thing I called it special, huh? You should have notified the chair that's what you wanted to do.
We appreciate it, Councilman.
All right. All right.
Thank
President, 2 weeks continuance.
Request to continue this matter for 2 weeks. Thank you, Mr. Holden. Mr. Rudy Thomas.
Per the department's request.
Mr. Rudy Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, this is an issue that has come to our attention, and we've given a fair amount of consideration to it. Controversial in nature because of the concern about the expansion of sworn personnel in our city. I think we've gotten over that hump, over that hurdle. We recognize that it's necessary for these officers to be properly equipped to do their job. We have elevated their training such that it is comparable to that of the police officers in LAPD proper. In addition to that, what is being done now is to tie together all of the policy memoranda so that there is uniformity. That's what this seeks to do. Now, Mr. DeClue, you say that there is a question being raised about that, and what is the nature of the question?
The nature of the question refers to one part of the policy which indicates that general services employees should not be armed when off duty, and that's consistent with state law, and we in the unions agree with that. And then they are not peace officers when off duty, and there is some concern about that. It's a little vague in state law, and we would ask consideration by the council to just give us a couple weeks to iron that one small issue out.
And with whom does it need to be ironed out?
The city attorney's office, LAPD, and we want to discuss it real briefly with our employee relations.
Now, is it your expectation that this needs to come back to committee?
We certainly could advise the committee, yes. I would.
But is that?
I don't think it would have to come back to committee.
All right.
I think we could.
And so we can schedule this, Mr. President, for 2 weeks as a date certain, and so whoever has outstanding concerns can address them at that time, within that time frame. It is my view that we need to have uniform policy, and the concerns that are being raised that you articulated a moment ago don't seem to rise to the significance of a continuance for 2 weeks necessarily.
We could probably get a result in 1 week.
It seems to me that these are matters that are largely technical in nature, but the thrust of what we did in committee ought to be maintained or retained, is my view. Thank you, Mr. President, and members of the council.
Mr. Rudy Thomas, that concurrence with the 2-week continuance?
President, let me just say we had our subject matter expert in committee with us, who happens to be a member of the committee, who signed off on this. So to the extent that Mr. Zine has already given his wisdom, or royal dispensation, I might say, then I see no reason for anyone to question it. Thank you so much.
Mr. Zine, followed by Mr. Holden.
Briefly, Mr. President, thank you for those kind comments, Councilman Rudy Thomas. I know that with the new leadership at General Services for the operations and the confusing process, multiple layers of confusing policies with this use of force, and then the assistance with the LAPD, and I think this maybe came about before the chief's arrival when the LAPD was temporarily taking over the operations. But clearly, there's got to be some consistency, and as Councilman Rudy Thomas said, this is something that needs to be done, implemented in a quick fashion. Just a point of clarification, you mentioned there was some concern, and can you just briefly narrow the issues in dispute, and are those labor issues?
It's a labor.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
Given that there are, well, at least what Tony's implied, that there may be some labor issues related to this matter, could we ask that our office gets involved and that we can sit down with both the department and the affected labor unions so we can look at the issues and then report back through, if not this full council or through EERC?
Well, that's what I was trying to get to, is if there are labor issues, that Mr. Fujioka's office does get involved, because you do that as a matter of policy with all the departments, and you are the liaison, as they say, with the labor unions, and you have not been included to this point, as I understand.
That's true. And what I wanted to do is so that we can have that discussion before we have a full public discussion here, because we wouldn't want to negotiate any changes here through today's process.
So are there MOU issues, just broad category, are those the issues that are in dispute or in discussion?
No, it's a legal issue.
Pardon me?
It's an interpretation of the state
interpretation?
law. Of the state law. That's it. On one specific issue.
Okay, that's all I have. Mr. Thomas, I think you have more.
On your time, Mr. Zine, in view of the fact that the CAO is weighing in at this point and requesting an opportunity to review, I think that sheds an entirely different light on the subject. And to the extent that that is the case, Mr. Fujioka, what time might you need to do your review? And is it your request that this go back to committee so that you can do what you need to do and bring this back in a way that can enjoy the support of your office?
Yes, at least 2 weeks, and then we can report back through the appropriate committee. If that committee is the ERC, it may not be, but
All
give
right.
us 2 weeks, and then we'll contact the appropriate committee chair.
Is it your intent to issue a report?
Yes.
All right, so then if it's a report that needs to be issued, it should be referred back to ITGS. All right, thank you.
Let the record reflect it will be referred to ITGS if possible,
Sit down.
if appropriate, referral to EERC as well. Before you go away, Mr. Holden has additional questions.
I just heard you say about some of these officers, you have to get an understanding from the union if they can carry their weapons while they're off duty. And I think are they post-certified, some of these officers? Some are post-certified and some are not.
All of our officers that carry weapons are post-certified.
Or if they're post-certified, any officer who's post-certified can carry a weapon anytime they want to. Is that correct?
No, that's not.
Then why are you denying these officers the right to carry a weapon off duty if they're post-certified?
We're not. The state law is very clear in that matter. The state law says with general services, special officers are authorized to carry arms only when on duty.
They're classified as special officers.
Right.
And special officers are restricted or limited as to when they can carry a weapon. Is that correct?
In state law. Yes, it is.
So it's clear in your mind?
It's clear in my
Clear in the
mind.
law.
It's clear in the state law. And what this
All right.
policy does, it simply reiterates the state law.
Well, you're the chief. You're the new chief?
Yes,
Yes,
it's
sir.
the new chief.
And
Yes,
you-
sir. Gary Newton, Chief Special
Are you
Officer.
post-certified?
Yes, I am.
Let me see your weapon. Stand up.
Just don't let him hold it.
Now, you're the police. Hey, I need to take a photograph. If you're the chief, you can't carry your weapon while you're off duty either?
That is correct. Special officers employed by general services are
what do you
specifically
do?
excluded by
So you leave your weapon here when you go home?
Yes, sir.
You never have it in your vehicle?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Members, then, without objection, this matter is continued, referred back to committee as we await the appropriate reports. Thank you very much. Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 51 was called special by Councilmember Ms. Sikowski.
Ms. Misikowski.
The city attorney asked that I add some findings to this, that the city desires to have these improvements made, and this specific street project will provide a public benefit because of the way the streets, three streets come together. We are vacating the property, but the vacation cannot be completed until the improvements, which are going to be done by a private party, are done. The city is receiving consideration by virtue of the fact that the improvements will be done by a private party. And we also need to amend the motion to remove the waiver of the performance bond. The work that will be done by a private party will include the performance bond. So with that finding and that amendment, I move the item.
Thank you, Ms. Misikowski. Other members wishing to be heard? Seeing none, then Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the item as amended. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please. Forthwith on 51.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 54 was called special by Councilmember Perry.
Ms. Perry, item 54.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I know that Mr. Pacheco joins me in renaming this intersection, which borders on both of our districts, for such an incredible individual named Ira Yellen. As an aside, there will be an interfaith service in his memory today at the new cathedral at 4:30. I don't think there's enough time in the day to put into words the impact that Ira Yellen had not only on downtown Los Angeles, but on the city of Los Angeles. And then for many of us personally, he is someone who will long be remembered. This is just one small way to remember him and memorialize him for the contributions he made to revitalizing downtown Los Angeles. And if it's not reflected in the motion, I do hope that I have added the language in there to go from 3rd Street from Broadway to Hill to rename it Ira Yellen Square.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. And I do know several members are aware and planning to participate in the services this afternoon. Other members wishing to be heard on this item? Item 54, Mr. Pacheco.
Mr. President, colleagues, for those of you who thought that we would not get behind redistricting and it wouldn't be behind us, I just want to share with you that Ms. Perry and I are working collaboratively here, and we will continue to work collaboratively when it comes to downtown. Ira Yellen is one of those individuals who really, his contribution to downtown has no boundaries. We really support everything that the family has done, everything that the council has done, everything that the city has done to honor Ira Yellen, and this is a part for us to recognize an individual who really challenged us all to think larger, to really think about downtown as the heart of the city. So I really believe that this is a small token of appreciation for everything Ira Yellen has done for our city. I ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Mr. Labange.
Mr. President, members of council, I just wanted to rise and thank council members Perry and Pacheco for this wonderful tribute to Ira Yellen. And throughout the city, there's many locations. Raul Wallenberg, I believe, was the first at Beverly and Fairfax, right by CBS Studios. Xavier Slosky did that. But throughout the city, we have squares naming for very, very great people. And I always tell others, because Cultural Affairs puts out a nice little book called Treasures of LA that list all these. It's fun and important for us to learn about people who've gone before us and made a contribution. And someone in the future, probably a student from Occidental College, will be at that corner, 3rd and Broadway, and say, who was Ira Yellen? This may be a student 20 years from now, and they'll look in the research and find out he was a great city builder and someone who cared about his city and went the long step to improve it. I congratulate you in this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Other members wishing to be heard? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, please close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 57 was called special. However, I understand there's a motion to refer by the chair of the committee to refer that back to committee.
Mr. Holden, this was called special by you, both the chair of the committee, Ms. Galanter, and the maker of the motion, Ms. Hahn, wish this matter be referred to committee. Is that okay with you?
57, didn't I call that special?
You did call that special. We're asking if it's okay with you that this matter be sent to committee.
Sure, let it go to committee.
Okay.
But as it goes to committee, you probably should check with some of those shippers down there at the harbor to find out whether or not they want to.
Well, actually, Mr. Holden, the point of the motion was to find out whether it's even possible to do this before we even bother the shippers with it.
Right.
But of course we would check
Well,
with
with
them.
the attitude they
and
have
I'm sure
today-
if we didn't, they would check with us.
No, they'd probably lock us out.
Yeah.
Mr. Brinson?
Yes, not only is it possible, it's highly advisable, and it's something that is being considered by the Air Quality Management District right now.
I know.
So we can send this to committee, but we should act on it. It's one of the biggest sources of pollution in the harbor and South Bay area is the diesel engines from the ships that are waiting to be unloaded.
Well, we're looking forward to that discussion in committee. Ms. Hahn?
Okay.
Thank you. I really want to thank Councilwoman Glanter for bringing this to our attention. It's certainly a concept whose time has come, and certainly as representing those communities, the port is one of the largest polluters in that community. This is an idea that we really need to explore and understand, and I believe the residents of San Pedro and Wilmington will appreciate the fact that that diesel is not spewing out as those ships are docked in our harbor. Of course, right now, we wish those ships were docked in the harbor, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. We have a request and no objection to referring this matter to committee. Mr. Holden?
Mr. President, members, this is a legitimate motion, and it says that whatever comes back as a cost or whatever the other requirements are in Section B of this motion, that's going to go to committee anyway. So it just tells DWP in advance, tell us what it's going to cost. Ms. Hahn, it's going to go to committee, whatever, tell DWP to report to committee in 2 weeks about what's being requested in this motion is ahead of the game, huh?
That's too much, that's not enough time. This is huge.
They'll come and talk to you.
This is huge.
What you're saying is that we're not going to do anything for a while, and this your brother wants it done. Well, I'm not going to get in a family argument here now.
Ms. Galanter.
Thank you. The reason I originally brought the motion in the form that Mr. Holden is suggesting, but I think that as we get close to the end of Mr. Holden's term and my term and other people's terms, it is a few other people's terms, it is a good idea for us to seize every opportunity for all of us, especially those of you who are going to have to carry on when we leave, to learn as much as we can. And I'm actually very pleased that Ms. Hahn has suggested that we talk about this. What we'll wind up doing is talking about it twice. We'll talk about it first in the committee and try to set out some of the issues and discuss what those issues are, including, as Mr. Burnson has pointed out, that the AQMD is involved in this. And then we'll get that will help us frame what we want from DWP. DWP will come back with a report which we will discuss in some detail. And what we hope to learn from DWP is what actually has to be, what kinds of wires have to go in and where, and do we have the capacity to do this? And if we don't, what will it take to get it? And then we have to figure out who's going to pay for it, and a number of other things like that. But I think that anytime you all want to go into an issue in a little more depth and learn more about it, this is a good thing. And so I'm perfectly happy to have it go to committee this time, although I didn't realize when we started, and that's why I had asked to have it go Rule 16. I think it'll be easier to just send this to committee and be done with it.
Thank you. Members, let me remind us, we have no objection to this matter being referred back to committee. I have Mr. Labange on the queue, followed by Mr. Garcetti.
I just wanted to stand and thank Councilmember Galanter and also Councilwoman Hahn for their ever-present effort in this change that is taking place in the port. It's a wonderful thing to understand these big ships. Unfortunately, we have a lockout right now, but the big ships will come to the port, and with technology, they'll be able to do this in the future, and it's a good business deal for our Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and a great environmental deal for all the people of Los Angeles. I just wanted to thank you and always thank you, Ms. Hahn, for what you do.
Mr. Garcetti.
Briefly building on that as well, I think at a time when we're moving away from looking at electric power for vehicles, it's unfortunate, but at the same time we have an opportunity to do it here in the port where about a fifth of all of our air pollution comes from one of the worst places. And I would really like DWP to look closely at keeping comprehensively all vehicle, whether they're ship or car programs, keeping that infrastructure investment in place. I think it's going to come back when we look at vehicles as well, probably in the next couple of years, but it's critical for DWP to be comprehensively looking at that, as well as what Councilmember Labange said in terms of a good business opportunity. So I'll be there in committee as well.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Seeing no other members wishing to be heard on this item, without objection, it is referred to the Commerce, Energy, and Natural Resources Committee. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 61, call special by Councilmember Burnson.
Mr. Burnson, followed by Mr. Reyes.
Yes, members of the council, first of all, the reason I ruled 54 this was the fact that this calls for tearing down 35 oak trees in connection with the so-called closure of the original closure that took place back in 1990 of Sunshine Canyon in the city portion, which we achieved at that time. However, the allowance of tearing down these oak trees is premature. Is there somebody here from Public Works? If they're here, I'd ask that they come forward, please. First of all, permits for design and grading of the Cinnamon Basin have not been given by Building and Safety. Why give a permit for removal of trees? This is a cart before the horse. You can come up to the table here, okay? Need for cement basis is still not certified, and its size has not been approved by Building and Safety. Questions about water diversion from the county have clouded the issue, and the need is questionable. The Public Works Commission report was not accurate. Our office made corrections that did not appear in the staff report. I don't know why, but they didn't. The community offered issues and questions, none of which were responded to. At the commission meeting, there was no detailed discussion and no response to the issues articulated by the community. I believe the commission failed to act in an appropriate way and time. The council needs to assert jurisdiction to guarantee proper public policy and timelines are followed. Basically, what I would like to do with this particular case, members of the council, I believe that we need to take jurisdiction, and I would move that we send it to the planning committee so that we can make sure that when the appropriate time, there's no question, when all the other issues are taken care of, this permit can be issued with the appropriate replacement of oak trees, which is 5 for 1. Is that correct?
That's correct in this case.
Yeah, that's an ordinance, one of my first ordinances that I authored when I first came on the council in 1979, was the oak tree protection ordinance. But anyway, at any rate, that's important. Obviously, at some point in time, this may be appropriate, but at the moment, it's premature. So I would move that that we take jurisdiction, that we send this to planning committee, and we establish some time periods and time priorities for when the appropriate time is there, then I have no objection. I mean, I have objections, obviously, to any reopening of Sunshine Canyon, but that's another issue. The issue is now on the previous closure, and the requirement for the previous closure is what this is tied to. So that would be my motion. I move that we take jurisdiction and refer it to planning committee.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. Members, I do want to recognize Mr. Reyes next, as he does need to leave, but we do have speaker cards submitted on this item after we had closed the public hearing. I think without objection, we can reopen the public hearing and hear from members of the public, but I want to give Mr. Reyes an opportunity to speak before he has to leave. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. In this horseshoe, sometimes we have to humbly deviate and sometimes disagree with our colleagues. And this is one of those instances. I stand to essentially say that we should vote no on this motion for a couple of main points. One being that the opponents of this closure plan essentially sued the city, and the city won in court. And part of that court settlement was to require the city to have an approved state closure plan. And the state closure plan that the city submitted required that we remove 35 oak trees for a real reason. That is to establish an environmentally sound sedimentation basin that can be built. This is so that the drainage system of the closed landfill can operate safely and properly. So those are two basic points that I wanted to put forward to the council in our discussion. And this is one of those issues that we do deviate on this one, but I'm looking at the resources, the efforts that the city has put forth. It has won this case, and we are basically following a closure plan that the city advocated for. The opponents did lose. If we were to reverse that, essentially, we would be giving back that which the city has won in court. So I just want to put all the facts on the table. Thank you, colleagues.
Let's then, members, before continuing with council discussion, go to the speaker cards. Mr. Wade Hunter, followed by Mary Edwards and David Edwards.
Thank you, council members. My name is Wade Hunter. I'm the president of the North Valley Coalition. We wish to thank the council for taking up this matter today. 2 weeks ago, I addressed this council telling you how disillusioned we were with the treatment that the MVC and the public received at the hands of the Board of Public Works. We followed that with a letter to all council members last week that outlined some of our concerns. The possibility of saving any oak trees and ensuring adequate mitigation are of great importance to the area residents. There are a lot of technical issues that would be difficult to go into today, and that's, of course, unless you want to. So we would appreciate it if this matter would be given to one of your committees so that it could be given the attention that it deserves. Thank you.
Ms. Edwards.
Thank you so much for reconsidering. I know I was on the verge of tears last 2 weeks ago when I came before you because of the fact that we felt that we were summarily dismissed by the Board of Public Works at the hearing, that we had prepared so much information that we handed to each one that they didn't even look at, and they didn't ask us a question. Yet there are some profound questions about this whole matter. It's not a matter of course, it's a matter of my heart of saving oak trees, and when I know that there's 3,000 or more that have already fallen in that canyon, it breaks my heart. But now we know that the design could possibly be changed so that some of these, the few that are left, could remain. But because the design factor has not even been considered, now we are looking at the possibility of saving something, but already summarily dismissed. So what we need now is for you to also consider the fact that there is no water at present coming into this, the proposed said basin because of the pollution that's taking place in the county. That water is being diverted into the sewer system. And until things like that are corrected, there is certainly no need for a huge sediment basin when we have real problems with contamination below. And the permit process, we feel, should be orderly. We may not prevail. Heaven knows we haven't prevailed for a long period of time. But we really would like to see you send it to a committee so that the public would not have the feeling that they were just there as window dressing, that someone was listening, someone was hearing, someone was considering. So we're just asking you to give it a hearing within one of your good committees that would listen to us and would take us seriously. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Mr. David Edwards.
Members of the council, my name is Dave Edwards with BFI. The request for the removal of the oak trees is for closure activities only. It's needed to be installed to necessitate drainage features to manage the water coming off of the closed landfill. The closure of the inactive city landfill is required by state law. All aspects of the city closure are part of a closure plan that was approved by Environmental Affairs, our LEA, the California Integrated Solid Waste Board, as well as the Water Board. BFI has already received several permits, including our 401 certification for the Water Board, as well as our stream bed alteration permit from Fish and Game. We also are very close to getting our permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. Closure of the landfill is necessary to protect the environment. It is mandated by state law and cannot be further delayed. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. This closes the public comment for item number 61. Members, if you haven't figured it out already, our system is down. So Mr. Burnson has had an opportunity to speak. Mr. Reyes has had an opportunity to speak. Mr. Holden is next on the queue, followed by Mr. Burnson for a second time. Other members wishing to be heard? Mr. Misikowski, Mr. Rudy Thomas. Mr. Holden, you have the floor.
Mr. President, members, I've heard Mr. Reyes and I've heard Mr. Burnson, and I've heard and listened to the public. Let me say to you that a live oak tree, they don't grow overnight. And I don't want to hastily dig them up and knock them down. If we can find any alternative way to come up with this plant, then let's look for it. I don't think necessarily the first proposed solution is the only solution. There are those who have influence in government. Sometimes they make mistakes and say, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to cut off the left leg because they had no problem with it. I really had a problem with the right leg, and that's what the operation should have been. And so, but once the damage is done, Mr. President, members, you can't unring the bell. It's done. And I hear what Mr. Reyes is saying. Sure, we won in court, but did we use the right argument for the right reasons? I don't know. And BFI, nobody wanted them out there in the first place. Certainly the people who live out there. I want to wait. And if we can take jurisdiction and wait, and if this, eventually I've got to knock them down, okay, that's all right. If we have to do it, we have to do it. But another 30 days or 20 days is not going to kill us one way or the other. Can you wait 20 days? You in that much of a hurry to get rid of these oak trees that took years to grow and they're protected? You satisfied with that? Then I'm going to go and wait. I got to vote to Prop 5. Mr. President, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Mr. Burnson.
First, let me clarify a couple things. First of all, I don't know why BFI is such a big hurry now all of a sudden. The closure was in 1990. Here we are 12 years, almost 13 years later, and all of a sudden it's a rush to judgment. First of all, Mr. Reyes, are you here? You left already. Unfortunately, what you didn't take into consideration was the fact that these things they claim for water drainage and so forth. However, the plans for the sediment basin haven't been approved. So why are we rushing to take these trees down if the plans haven't been approved? We're not even certain they're going to be required. Third of all, the permit for grading has been withheld. The mayor asked, if you recall, the mayor and I brought a motion before this council which was approved, I believe, unanimously to withhold grading at this time. So there is no big rush, and I don't believe that this was part of the settlement or the decree on this relative to the trees. Is that maybe Mr. Pritzker, and you'll hold my time on this? Will you give us the answer to that?
It was discussed in Superior Court. The adequacy of the mitigated negative declaration was adjudicated in favor of the city. However, the matter is on appeal in the Court of Appeal right now.
So it's not final, in other words. What about the trees? Was there any comment in there about when we had to give permits for things of this nature?
Well, one of the things we're litigating was the adequacy of the discussion in the mitigated negative declaration so far as the trees and the mitigation of oak trees are concerned.
Yeah, so members of the council, what you've heard is only one side of the argument. Actually, this is still under contention in the courts. It's under appeal. So whatever the case may be, we do want closure, but everything should be done in the proper order. Now, at such time as a basin is decided that it's approved and designed and everything else, and it's an appropriate time to issue this order to tear these trees down, then so be it. We have no choice. But this is not the time, members of the council.
Thank you, Mr.
And we don't know that the time is going to come. We have to wait and see what the final jurisdiction is going to be in the courts, and we have to wait and see what's going to happen with other things that need to happen before this is done. So I would ask that we take jurisdiction. We don't necessarily say that we're not going to allow this to be done. We take a look at it, we put it in the proper order, and then when the time comes that they need to be done, if they need to be done, then we do it. So I would ask for a positive vote from all of you to take jurisdiction, let's send it to two committees. Let's send it to Environmental Affairs as well as Plum. We can have a joint meeting on that. And I think that's the appropriate way to handle this.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second to Mr. Brunson's motion? Mr. Zine seconds. I have Ms. Misikowski next.
I would like to ask the Public Works representative and the city attorney to explain the situation. We've heard two conflicting stories, one about what has been approved, where it's been approved, and Mr. Burnson's information that, in fact, something is being approved but not in totality. That, in other words, this is a part, just remove the oak trees before the other permits are issued. Would the Board of Public Works and the City Attorney explain the closure plan, the agencies that have approved it, and what steps are being taken consistent with that closure plan that, having been at least initially litigated, the city was successful? What other agencies have approved this so far?
Well, the litigation arose out of the approval by our Environmental Affairs Department acting as the lead enforcement agency for the State Solid Waste Board. That action is what initiated the lawsuit against us. The other approval here is the oak tree permit. I don't know offhand what other permits need to be obtained. I believe that Dave Edwards, who's the manager of the landfill, addressed that a few moments ago during public comment and said that I believe he said that they're close to obtaining the permits they need from Fish and Game. But as far as the city is concerned, I believe that we've issued the permits that we need to issue. That is the approval.
What about, there was reference to grading permits or engineering permits to create the sediment control structure, which apparently needs to be placed in this location where the oak trees are. What has been done in terms of following up with that, and how integrated are those permits in terms of doing that kind of closure work?
I don't know what the status of the issuance of those permits are. I would, accept Mr. Bernson's statements at face value, not knowing anything other than that. Obviously, the issuance of those permits are important for the project to go forward, the project meaning the closure of the landfill. And I'm also not certain whether the state has issued its final approval of the proposed closure from the LEA.
All right, well, it does seem appropriate, as Mr. Brinson has talked about, to have a plan, a complete plan, what permits are needed, what the sequence of permits are, and from that perspective, I think it makes sense, because obviously just looking at one permit in an isolated sense, although it is consistent with the plan that's been approved at the state level, and consistent apparently with at least the city successfully upholding the environmental findings in a court of law, it seems that we ought to have someone here from the Board of Public Works who can give us the thorough plan of closure, the thorough permit processing, the thorough permit approvals at the related state levels, which seem to have gone forward at this time, as well as where the city needs to come in. I for one, would also be hesitant to stop something which has been consistent with approval, consistent with process, but since all we have here today are the people talking about singularly the oak trees and not the entirety of the plan, it seems to me that it's appropriate to have the entirety of the plan put forward. But nevertheless, having said that, I think even Mr. Brinson agrees and has said that these oak trees being removed is part of the entirety of the plan, but the terms of timing, the terms of processing is something that we really need in front of us. And I'm not sure if there's someone else from the Board of Public Works or the Environmental Affairs Department who could come and give us that thorough kind of analysis. In fact, I'm not sure if there's anyone here from the Environmental Affairs, but it seems to me that that would put this into context that would be appropriate.
I think someone from Environmental Affairs would be in the best position to answer your questions about how all the different permits that are needed fit together under the plan that they have drawn up.
And do we have anyone from the Environmental Affairs here? Would it be
Apparently not.
Would it be appropriate to ask for a one-day continuance so that this matter could have the Environmental Affairs?
Is that a motion, Ms. Misikowski?
Well, Mr. Brinson saying he's not.
Today's the last day, I believe, tomorrow is?
Tomorrow's the
Can I
last
have
day.
just one point of clarification? My understanding, maybe Mr. Pritzker can clarify this, the sediment basin was not part of the consent decree or whatever was issued here, the judgment. I understand that was something that was asked for by Browning Ferris. Is that correct?
I'm not positive what the answer is to that. I thought it was part of the closure plan.
My understanding, it was not part of the closure plan. It's something that it was requested by them.
Well, again, I think to answer this, if we have one more day, can have Environmental Affairs here to answer those and to put forward. Environmental Affairs is our responsible department. It acts on behalf of the state, consistent with coordination of the closure plan that was submitted to the state and all of its various parts. So let us, my motion is to continue this one day and ask the Environmental Affairs to be here.
Cindy, we only have 11 people here tomorrow. I think we need to act on this today. I'd ask that.
Should we take a vote on whether or not to continue, or do you withdraw the motion, Ms.
No,
Misikowski?
well, I've got a second. I've got a second to the motion.
Okay, let's
so
take a vote before we proceed any further in the policy discussion. Let's open the roll on a one-day continuance.
I'd ask for a no vote, please.
Okay, members, as I mentioned, the system is down, so we are going to do an all vote here. The
Bernstein-
motion before us is to continue this matter for one day. A yes vote is for the continuance. A no vote is against the continuance and would request a vote today on this motion. Madam Clerk.
Bernson?
No.
Galanter? Garcetti? Gruhl? Oh, where is she?
Is Ms. Gruhl here? Madam Clerk, just hold off on the roll call. All members at your seats, please. Do we have all members in place yet? Okay.
Why are you worried about the house?
It's all yes.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Okay, let's, Madam City Attorney, we're going to go ahead with the roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Brinson? Garcetti? Gruhl?
She's not
Hahn.
in chambers at this time.
No.
Holden? No. Labange?
I want all the information, Hal, but I'm going to vote no with you, but I want all the information.
Misakowski? Aye. Pacheco?
It's multiple choice, Mr. Pacheco.
Continue?
Yes.
No.
Motion to continue one day to tomorrow.
No, Hal wants no.
And how did Mr. Burnson vote?
No.
No.
Perry? I can't hear you. Okay.
All right, come on.
Ridley Thomas?
It's obviously academic at this point.
I was with you, Hal.
Weiss? Zine?
I say no.
Padilla?
No.
9 ayes, 9 noes, 2 ayes.
Okay, motion does not pass. Other members wishing to be heard on the subject matter today? Seeing none, then the substitute motion offered by Mr. Burnson, seconded by Mr. Zine, is to assert jurisdiction and to refer the matter to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee and Environmental Affairs. This is a different action than the motion calling for a veto of the Public Works Board action. So the matter we're voting on is to assert jurisdiction and refer the matter to committee.
You need 2 votes, Mr. Chair. So the first one would be to take jurisdiction. At that point, you would then vote to vote on
let's
Mr. Burnson's motion.
vote on asserting jurisdiction. Madam Clerk?
Burnson? Garcetti? Hahn? Holden? Labange? Misakowski? Pacheco? Perry? Ridley Thomas? Weiss? Zine? Padilla?
Aye.
9 ayes, 3 noes.
Madam Clerk, did you record Mr. Lavange's?
Can we have please have a record, we need a yes vote to take jurisdiction.
Okay, Ms. Gruhl is back in chambers. I will rule as chair, Madam Clerk, to please reopen the roll.
And this is on asserting jurisdiction.
Asserting jurisdiction, members.
Burnson?
Yes.
Garcetti? Gruhl? Hahn? Holden? Labange? Misakowski? Pacheco? Perry? Reyes? Ridley Thomas? Weiss? Zine? Padilla?
Yes.
10 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay, so the motion is approved. Matter has been brought to the council's jurisdiction, and unless there's an objection, we shall refer this matter to both the Planning and Land Use Management Committee as well as the Environmental Quality Committee. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 21 was held on the desk for an amending motion, and I believe it has been distributed to the council members.
Okay, amending motion has been circulated on item 21. I believe it's technical in nature. Is there any discussion or objection to the amending motion? Seeing none, let's consider item number 21 as amended. Madam Clerk, please open the roll.
Brinson, Galanter, Garcetti, Gruhl, Han, Labange, Holden, Labange, Misikowski, Pacheco, Perry, Reyes, Ridley Thomas, Weiss, Zine, Padilla.
13 ayes.
That matter is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 26 was held on the desk.
Mr. President, 43 forthwith.
43?
Yeah.
Forthwith on item 43, please.
Item number 26 was held on the desk for, I believe, someone from the department.
Mr. Garcetti had called this matter special, waiting for someone from the department.
Running. Thank you, Mr. Nelson, for coming down here. Could you please report to the council some of the items that are contained in the CAO report, but also on what the department has done in terms of youth outreach to ensure that there are young people involved in our neighborhood councils, and how are our neighborhood councils doing? What is their record right now? Please hold the balance of my time.
Yes, Councilman. Greg Nelson, General Manager, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. The exact number of youth who serve on the boards right now, I'm not really certain about the exact number, but I can tell you that it's pitifully low. It's much lower than it should be. One of the things that we face is the fact that all neighborhood councils are allowed to choose their own form of governance. So some have specifically set aside seats for youth. Others allow youth to run, and others allow youth to participate in the voting. So we're trying to get the exact number, but it's a very, very low number.
Who allows youth to run right now for neighborhood council? Do you know which ones?
We have Eagle Rock, Grassroots Venice, Lincoln Heights, Pacoima, Wilmington, and I think some of the others who have just recently been certified. They're getting certified so fast, it's hard to keep up with it. But for every problem, there's a solution. And I could go through briefly some of the solutions we're working on, or save it for the report that I have to put in writing.
Sure. Well, two items. One, is the department, or has the board rather, when looking at certification, have they, in the same way that I know that there's other items that they have used to show non-representativeness and to deny certification to neighborhood councils or to postpone certification, has this come up ever in their discussions that, no, there are not enough young people on this neighborhood council, we don't feel that this is representative at this point, and have asked them to come back and do work on that?
Yes, Councilman, it comes up every time. We have a teacher on our board and a former teacher, and they regularly will express concern about that. So what happens is, though, before the application is even submitted, we have our staff working with the applicant saying, we really want you to have youth involved for this reason, and when you come before the board, if you don't have a youth component, you'd better be ready to answer that question, because you're going to be asked about it, guaranteed.
So have there actually been postponements based on that? It's great that they're bringing that up as a question, but some of the criteria have teeth in my experience, where actually, if it's not diverse enough, they've been asked to come back, you don't represent the ethnic population or whatever, and it's had to go forward. But I don't know of any case where they've actually sent it back because of non-representation from young people.
No, Councilman, that has never happened, and the main reason it has never happened is because the charter doesn't allow that the commission cannot continue a matter on its own. When an application comes before the commission, it's up or down, yes or no. And the only exception to that would be if the applicant themselves volunteer to take a time out. That's what happened in the Hollywood, in your part of the area, where the two agreed to take a time out to strengthen their proposal or to work out some problem. But if they want to have a decision, then they're guaranteed a decision, and there is no opportunity for the board to say, I'm dissatisfied with this part of it, let's continue it.
Quick comment and final question. I would impress upon the department, I know that you have included that in all of your literature and all of your public pronouncements, that we really, it's the same thing with community organizing that you've heard me say before. I think that the neighborhood council exercise rises and falls with how representative it is, and that young people who are so often acted upon need to be full actors in that. And by the time it gets here, we're just concerned with the outcome. We probably can't, but give you some leads in terms of who to reach out to. But I think it is critical that the board recognize that might be a compelling reason to send some neighborhood councils back where they've done either token or no youth outreach. And my last question is just if you could detail what the department has done at this point, and then I'll turn it over to our chair from the Neighborhood and Education Committee.
I'll be real brief on that, and then I'll follow up in the written report that I'm required to do. We've taken one of our most senior staff people who has a lot of experience in youth involvement. He wants to head up the staff effort to make sure that we've got the strongest possible program for involving youth. One of the main things that we want to do is to examine all the best practices. He's going actually to a meeting tomorrow of an exciting group that involves the county Children's Planning Council and our own city workforce board. And they want to be examining best practices for involving youth in everything that happens in the city and the county. So he's going to go there. They want to examine best practices. They have a full-time consultant. So that really excited us, and I think that'll be a major help in us figuring out best practices. We're also going to be using our staff and interns to examine best practices across the entire nation. It's our theory that techniques that work in Milwaukee to involve youth would probably work here. So we want to find all those best examples and share them. I met Friday with David Tukofsky from the Board of Education. He's going to be submitting a motion in about a week that will begin to get the school district focused in on how to involve the youth. We have had discussions with UTLA, and they are very, very interested, active. They want to have at least a couple of teachers in every school who become the point people for neighborhood councils and involving the youth. And as I mentioned when I was in committee, when I was on the Youth Council, I think one of the things that I always worried about is who really paid attention to the ideas that I came up with. And I think it would be a wonderful idea if the City Council and its committees would from time to time invite these youth groups and these youth councils to come and present their ideas to them. Because then it would have meaning. Their ideas just wouldn't be on a piece of paper that get filed away somewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Ms. Hahn, followed by Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was something that, of course, it was the reason I asked for this was because I was sensing that neighborhood councils were not making a concerted effort to include young people, in their membership and on their governing board. And I think stakeholder is the key here. I mean, our intent is that every neighborhood council reflects the diverse stakeholders in an area, and even, before they're certified, according to the city charter, they must have assurances that members of the neighborhood council, I'm reading from the charter, section 906, Article 3, assurances that members of the neighborhood council will reflect the diverse interests within their area. And certainly young people are probably one of the biggest interests in any neighborhood, and I was very disappointed that of the first 27, only 7 of those, or 6 of those, had young people in the governing board. My own neighborhood council in San Pedro has an 18-year-old who sits on the governing board and is a part of the decision-making process. But I agree with Councilman Garcetti. I don't feel like we're putting enough teeth into denying applications when there is no assurance, that they are really representing a diverse interest. And I think if we really believe in the future of neighborhood councils, we're going to have to believe in the involvement of young people in neighborhood councils, and they, as much as anybody, have an interest. My question would be, for instance, if a neighborhood council came for certification and they had no business stakeholders in their neighborhood council, would we deny that application?
Councilman, you're asking me to get into the head of the commissioners, but it is possible that if they showed no interest in involving or reaching out to any of the major stakeholder groups, youth included, that would probably be grounds for rejecting them, and I think the city attorney would let us do that. All the groups outreach. It's just the results aren't what we like.
Right. And I guess what I'd like to see is maybe come back and report to education neighborhoods on maybe a little more specific on how we can guarantee that we have a youth component in all neighborhood councils, and whether or not that would be grounds for denying an application if there was no assurances that they were being represented. Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. Ms. Gruhl.
Well, I want to add to the comments my colleagues have made about this, and as Tom Labange and I have so frequently talked about, that we both were on the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council in our younger years. And the importance, as described here today, of the youth's participation, because I think they have wonderful ideas. What laws we make and what decisions are made by not only the neighborhood council, but here in the city council, are oftentimes impacting their daily lives, and they need to have a part in that process. It's my hope from this discussion today, and that the commissioners, that you will share with them our concerns, so as these come forward, as we review the effectiveness of some that have already been approved, that we go back to them and ask them, what outreach are you doing, and help them. I mean, you know, whether it's the Commission on Children, Youth, and Family that similarly has access to young people, we should use those programs that currently exist to invite people to participate in those programs. I, last week, met a couple of young people who were part of the Congressional Award Program. So there are a number of existing organizations and activities, not only through the LA Unified School District, but others, the Constitutional Rights Foundation, et cetera, where we can go to them and ask them to be part of this process. So I think if my colleagues and I continue to feed information to you all about youth organizations, that you can similarly share those with the neighborhood councils and come back with the help and obviously advice and counsel of the commission on ways in which we can encourage that youth participation and require it. So just add my 2 cents to that. Thanks, Greg.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, the thing that occurs to me that may be attributable to the success of the Empowerment Congress is the following. We set forth that there had to be young people who were involved, and not only that, but establish a youth advocacy council that's part and parcel of the structure. It would seem to me that it is worth our considering, and I suspect it would be the committee chaired by Ms. Hahn on neighborhood councils and education, et cetera, that a motion might come forth that would essentially affirmatively or proactively call for a template that could then be followed by the respective neighborhood councils so that we would give them guidance. I'm not sure that we would want to mandate this, but I wouldn't shy away from this. It seems to me that a template that speaks to the range of stakeholders that would no doubt be applicable to any given community could be helpful. Business, youth, religious entities, etc. All of those found their way in the initial formation of the forerunner to the Empowerment Congress. It essentially built in to the fabric of this institution that now has celebrated 10 years of successful community cooperation. It built those very features into the nature of how, in fact, it has evolved. And so I would move, to the extent that is appropriate, that the neighborhood councils and education committee take up the issue of a template that then could be transmitted to the respective bodies that have already been convened to see if they can't adjust their format to be more inclusive in a rather specific way. If it's in order, I would so move, and it can be taken up for refinement by the committee.
Motion and a second. Mr. Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Nelson, what interplay have you had with the Unified School District or the various private schools throughout, senior high schools throughout the city?
Councilman, the interaction with the school district has been through UTLA, the United Teachers of Los Angeles, and then just as recently as last Friday with Board Member Tchaikovsky. And we've been beginning to design plans for how we can reach into the schools. It's an organization there, it's a network there that's just ripe. It's ready to go, and we just have to work into it in an organized way and begin reaching the youth that way. That's going to be a major part of what we're going to do.
Well, they do have an organization for all the senior high school class leadership. Here we have students from Occidental. You should call the professor from Occidental to testify on how to get students involved. But I think it's real important, and what Mark said is so important, and Mark and I were together on Tom Bradley's Youth Council, and Wendy spoke of it earlier, and Ed Reyes, and Janice Hahn said it was very, very important. And I remember taking the bus down Sunset Boulevard from Silver Lake to come here for the Youth Council. So there's ways to do it, we just got to do it, but it's a public table that we invite everybody to in the Neighborhood Council. So to identify those chairs, as Mark says the Neighborhood Congress has over the years, is so important to articulate, because those are the foundation for a neighborhood. So I also call on that you work closely and organize all our council deputies to help you get to the people, to make sure that they have the place at the table that's so necessary to make the Neighborhood Council successful. Thank you.
Any other members wishing to be heard on this item?
Mr. President, members of the council, I wish it to be known that when Tom, how old were you when you were on that Youth Advisory Council? 19. Wendy was how old? Wendy was 13. How old? All right. All right, so I was in my early 20s at that time, as I recall. So I'm just making a point that youth extends to a certain point in time. Now, the psychologists will wish us to know that adolescence extends to the age of 24. And so we have a window of opportunity to get some late bloomers in the mix if they want to be neighborhood activists as well. So I thought that would be an insight.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Thank you so much. You're overdue, Mr.
Seeing no other members wishing
Labange.
to be heard at this time, we do have two amending motions that I believe are accepted as friendly amendments. Is that correct? Seeing no objection, then we shall consider this item as amended. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, this is the time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
And having no speaker cards for public comment of today's meeting, public comment is closed.
Mr. President, do you wish to clear the desk before going into closed session?
Let's clear the desk, and I do have one speaker card on a closed session item.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There are two requests for excuse on the desk. Councilmember Weiss requests to be excused Tuesday, November 19th for personal business that meets council policy.
Mr. Weiss is excused.
And Councilmember Misakowski requests to be excused Tuesday, October 8th to leave at 12:30 for city business that also meets council policy.
Ms. Misakowski is excused.
That clears the desk for closed session. Do you wish to take the card from the public?
Before going into closed session, we do have one speaker card on item 59, a closed session item. Council calls forward Robert Aquino at this time. Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. I'm Bob Aquino, the Executive Director of Engineers and Architects. My understanding is that item 59 on the closed agenda has to do with a report on EAA's MOU issues. The only comments I'd like to make, and I tried to get some copies in the hands of council members, and I'll leave these few that I have here on the issues that we feel are still pending. My understanding is that some of you have felt that I've basically been exhibiting an abrasive attitude towards the council, and it's not been my intention to do so. We thought we were getting some mixed signals throughout the year we were in negotiations. We were being told on a regular basis by the mayor's office that there didn't seem to be problems with our proposals. We got to what we felt should have been the end of the process, even though negotiations weren't moving along with the CAO representatives, and found out that there were some severe problems with our proposals. Since we have been at impasse, we found out some of the major proposals we had, like the COLA, had been resolved in the same manner that we had asked that they be resolved with other units like AFSCME's clerical unit, and since then even the harbor pilots that are SEIU 347. I guess what I'm speaking to you about today is a very simple issue. I think that as council members, you have an opportunity to show your employees that there is some rationale behind this and that they are to be treated equitably. EAA is a group of employees that has been pretty faithfully working behind the scenes for years and hasn't been a visible entity other than in providing services to the citizens of the city. It's been 14 months that they've been working without a contract, and there's been a lot of other things that have occurred behind the scenes to their organization, EAA. But I'm asking that I hope you're not judging these issues based on any personal attitude towards their servant, Bob Aquino, but rather in a manner that's fair to your employees. And there is a fairness issue involved at this point. I will leave several of these copies in case each member didn't get an envelope that we try to get in your hands. But hopefully we can resolve this issue soon, because we have about 7,800 city employees that are affected by these MOUs, and they are concerned, as are, I hope, some of you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very much. This closes public comment for item number 59. And seeing no other business before closed session, in conformance with California law, the council will now adjourn into closed session. Guards, please clear the chambers. Welcome back into open session. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
That clears the desk, Mr. President.
Are there any announcements today? Announcements? Today's the first day of October. How time flies. New Year's Eve was just yesterday, it seems like. I will make a brief announcement. The council will be in session tomorrow at the normal place and time, but the council will be in recess this Friday to allow members to participate in the League of California Cities annual conference taking place in Long Beach. So members of the public, please be advised, we will have a council session tomorrow, Wednesday, but not this upcoming Friday.
I would also advise you, you're all members of SCAG, and SCAG is having a preliminary meeting prior to the General Assembly there at Long Beach, so it'll give you an opportunity for those of you that want to participate in SCAG. You're members of the Regional Council. So I would invite you to join in.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brinson. Mr. Pacheco for an announcement.
Mr. President, colleagues, I just want to thank all of you who came out and supported, and especially those in the public, the Unity event this weekend. I just wanted to report that they raised close to $26,000 for the families and victims of 9/11. This was specifically for those individuals who didn't qualify for support through the normal traditional programs because of lack of documentation. So I just want to thank you all for your support.
Other announcements? Seeing none, adjourning motions. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for Councilmember Galanter. I ask that we adjourn in memory of Frances L. Sellers, who passed away September 8th of this year. She is survived by 3 children, her 4 grandchildren, and may she rest in peace.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. I would like us to adjourn today in the memory of Congresswoman Patsy Mink. Congresswoman Mink represented the state of Hawaii for more than 2 decades and was 74 years old when she died. She died Saturday after being hospitalized for more than a month, and her death came 1 week after she won the Democratic primary election for her congressional seat. Born in Hawaii, Mink became a lawyer and then a member of the House and Senate in Hawaii while it was still a territory. She was elected to Congress in 1964 and left office in 1977 to run for the Senate, a race she lost. But she was reelected to the House in 1990 and had won her last 2 elections by wide margins. She had won re-election 2 years ago by nearly 2-to-1 margin and had been considered a sure winner in this November's 5th general election. She was a strong supporter of women's rights, and in 1972, she co-authored the legislation that became Title IX that mandated gender equality in any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. She was the first Asian Pacific American woman admitted to the bar of Hawaii. She was the first Asian Pacific American woman elected to state office in Hawaii, and the first woman of color elected to national office in the United States when she joined the Congress in 1964. As Transportation Secretary Norma Netta said recently, she not only opened those doors, she actively helped others pass through them. She is survived by her husband, John Mink, and her daughter, Wendy.
Seconded by all members. Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, remember we had a young man here, city employees, Hagop Upremium. He was a civil engineer associate who had worked 12 years for the Department of Public Works, the Bureau of Engineering and Sanitation. Maybe Ms. Perry, you want to on this. Among his many assignments, he served as a project manager for the Accelerated Sewer Repair Program, which focuses on pipes damaged during the Northridge earthquake. He was a dedicated city employee who was well liked by his coworkers. In March, Mr. Upremium left the department to care for his ailing mother. He was 36 years old when he died suddenly of a heart attack. Services was held, survived by his parents and a brother and a sister. Also, Mr. President, Dr. Adolfo Yeslavtolo, I got it right, was a longtime resident and business owner in the 10th District. He ran a successful medical practice that focused on workers' compensation claim. Dr. Slavtolov was 71 years old and had suffered from adult leukemia for several months. Services are today, 3 p.m., Forest Lawn in Hollywood, survived by his wife and 3 children.
Mr. Labange.
Yeah, members of council, as we adjourn in memory of Agnes Ann Green, who lived to be 90 years old. She was a nun in the Immaculate Heart community, raised in San Bernardino, and she moved to Hollywood and was raised in Hollywood and also went to USC and got her master's degree and her doctorate degree and work at Stanford. She was a great advocate for chemistry and taught for 70 years as a member of the Immaculate Heart community, but she taught from 1942 to 1978 at the college and also taught Loyola Marymount at Occidental, Whittier, and Cal Poly Pomona. She was a great advocate for women in chemistry because there were so few women in chemistry, but as a member of the Immaculate Heart community, she was extremely special, as all people are, but to live to 90 years old and to contribute to betterment of many people, she deserves the praise of our adjournment. And also, Mr. Holden, I noticed that a colleague of yours from the State Senate, Leroy F. Green, state senator, passed. He was 84 years old, served the Sacramento community, and also was a great advocate for education. And I think we should adjourn in memory of that California legislator as well.
All members. Mr. Holden.
What most people don't know about members of the legislature, especially the Senate, that they're hard workers and they're experts in their respective fields. Their field is one where they serve on specific policy committees. Senator Green, of course, headed the Education Committee in the Senate and was responsible for many of the successful programs that we now enjoy in the state of California in terms of educating our youth and providing certain opportunities for them that would not otherwise been made available. We don't thank these guys enough Unfortunately, once again, I'll
And
say
women.
what term limits will do for us, take away that institutional knowledge and memory about what was done, how it was done, and to make sure that those gains that we made will be protected and not be taken away like these budget shortfalls today. So anyway, Mr. President, certainly by unanimous vote, we adjourn in memory of Senator Green. Leroy Green, that's more than one Green.
Ms. Misikowski.
The city lost a pillar, and particularly the Palisades community lost a pillar last night in Mort Farborough. Anyone who's been to the Palisades, I'm sure has been to Mort's Deli. It is the center of town. It is the heart of town, and the heart of Mort's is Mort Farborough, along with his wife Bobby, who set this place up. There is not an event in town, a cause in town that wasn't catered for free by Mort and Bobby. It is such a comfortable, friendly place. Very often in a business community, business members don't want some youth around. Youth were welcomed at Mort's, so much so that in that busy community where people are coming and going, families knew that their kids could go to Mort's, get a good meal, have friendship, have in the Oak Room the TV on if they wanted. Any community group who needed an emergency place to meet or just a place to meet and have fun would go to Mort's. I think 4 years ago, Mort and Bobby were honored as Citizens of the Year in the Palisades. For anyone who's gone to the Palisades Americanism Parade every 4th of July, it's always catered by Mort and Bobby. He was in Wisconsin last week helping his son Stuart and their family move, getting ready to move to Hawaii. And he suffered a stroke last week, Tuesday, and the family was able to be together and spend some time with him before he passed away yesterday. In addition to Bobby, he is survived by their son, Stuart, and a daughter, Karen, a local resident who followed in her parents' footsteps in the food business and is now an executive at the California Pizza Kitchen. The services will be announced later when the family gets back into town, but I know that the Palisades has lost a true treasure in Mort Farborough.
Mr. Zine.
Mr. President, colleagues, request we adjourn in memory of Bob Baker. Bob Baker, a resident of Reseda for over 22 years, died of cancer. He was a board member of the Reseda Chamber of Commerce and started the Reseda Chamber of Commerce Youth Awards, which gave scholarships to outstanding students. Also, for 16 years, Bob dressed up as a clown and accompanied Santa Claus to various schools, including Fred S. Lowe School for Disabled Children. Bob was very giving and a friendly person. He will be greatly missed by his family and the community. He is survived by his daughter, Pat Rockney, son-in-law Russ, and 3 grandchildren, Jason, Scott, and Megan. May he rest in peace.
Other tributes? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.